When Hurricane Ian slammed into Florida, thousands of families thought they were covered. But after the winds died down and the floodwaters rose, they found out the hard way they weren't. Their insurance company said, "Sorry, that's not included." And the worst part, this could happen to you even if you've been paying your premiums for years. Here's the truth most Americans only learn too late. Every year, millions of Americans pay thousands in homeowners insurance believing their biggest investment is protected. But what if the very disaster you're preparing for isn't even covered? Floods, hurricanes, storm surge. You assume your policy has you safe, but buried deep in the fine print are exclusions, exceptions, and special deductibles that leave people financially devastated when they need help the most. In this video, we're exposing the insurance traps no one tells you about until it's too late. You'll discover why flood damage is usually not covered, what named storm deductibles really mean, truth about FEMA assistance and how little it actually helps, and how one bad storm could cost you everything even if you thought you were insured. Because if you live in a flood zone, a hurricane-prone coast, or even inland America, you need to hear this. Standard insurance does not equal flood protection. Here's the number one mistake most homeowners make. They think, "I have insurance, I'm good." But if a flood destroys your home tomorrow, there's a high chance you'll get nothing. That's because standard homeowners insurance policies do not cover flood damage. Not a single drop. It doesn't matter if your basement fills up with storm surge, if your walls collapse from rising water, if your floors are soaked and your wiring is ruined, you're still not covered. And here's what's worse, many people find this out after a disaster, after they've lost furniture, walls, electrical systems, and years of memories. Why? Because flood coverage is sold separately. If you don't buy a flood insurance policy either through a FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program, an FIP, or a private insurer, you're taking a massive risk, and millions of Americans don't even realize it. In fact, according to FEMA, just 1 inch of floodwater can cause up to $25,000 in damage, and most homes aren't ready for it, especially in places where flooding seems unlikely. But in today's climate, flooding doesn't wait for coastal warnings anymore. Flash floods, inland rain events, river overflows. The danger is everywhere, and your standard policy won't save you. Hurricanes. It's complicated at first glance. You'd assume hurricane damage is covered by homeowners insurance, and you'd be half right. Let's break it down. Wind damage, usually covered. Falling trees, covered. Roof ripped off, also covered. But here's the catch. If that same hurricane pushes water into your home through storm surge, overflowing rivers, or flash floods, you're out of luck. That's considered flooding, and unless you have separate flood insurance, your standard policy won't pay a dime. So imagine this, your windows get shattered by 120 miles per hour winds, insurance covers it, but water rushes in from the street and destroys your flooring and appliances. That's on you. And it gets even worse when the storm gets a name. Section 3. Fine print traps. The named storm deductible. So, you finally feel relieved. You double-checked your policy. It says hurricane damage is covered. But just when you think you're safe, the fine print strikes. Most homeowners don't realize their policy includes something called a named storm deductible. Here's how it works. Once the National Weather Service officially names a tropical storm or hurricane like Idalia, Hillary, or Beryl, your normal deductible disappears. Instead, the special hurricane deductible kicks in, and it's not cheap. Instead of your standard $1,000 deductible, you could now be responsible for 2% to 5% of your home's insured value. Let's do the math. If your home is insured for $400,000, a 5% hurricane deductible means you have to pay $20,000 out of pocket before your insurance covers a single repair. Even worse, the deductible applies to each named storm. So, if 2 hurricanes hit your area in one season, you're looking at 2 massive out-of-pocket bills back to back. And the real kicker, Insurance companies don't exactly shout this from the rooftops. It's buried deep in your policy documents, often written in legal jargon most people never read until it's too late. Section 4. Real victims, stories of financial ruin. The numbers are one thing, but when you see what actually happens to families on the ground, it's heartbreaking. Take the Martinez family in Louisiana. When Hurricane Maura hit, their roof tore off, and floodwaters surged into their home. They had homeowners insurance. They even had hurricane coverage, but no flood policy. The result? Their claim was denied. They lost everything: furniture, electronics, drywall, insulation. All of it soaked. All of it gone. And then came the bill. Over $70,000 in repair costs. Out of pocket. With no savings left, they had to move in with relatives. Their kids shared a bedroom with cousins for months. And they're not alone. In New Jersey, after Hurricane Ida, thousands of residents were stunned to find their basements underwater, some with 5 or 6 feet of flood. Many had insurance. Few had flood insurance. One homeowner told reporters, "We've paid our premiums for over a decade, but now they say it's not their problem. It's like we were robbed twice, once by the storm, and again by our own insurer." Another in Houston described insurance adjusters ghosting them, leaving them with warped floors, black mold, and zero payout. These stories don't make headlines, but for the people living through them, they're life-changing. Section 5. FEMA and the flood insurance gap. So, if your insurance doesn't cover the damage, surely FEMA will step in, right? That's what many homeowners believe. But here's the cold truth. FEMA is not an insurance company. It's an emergency relief agency, and its help is limited, temporary, and often delayed. After a major disaster, FEMA may offer grants or low-interest loans, but the average FEMA payout is just $5,000 to $10,000, nowhere near enough to rebuild a home. Compare that to the average flood damage repair bill: $30,000, $50,000, even $100,000 plus in extreme cases. So, unless you have a separate flood insurance policy, you're relying on crumbs. Worse, many homeowners aren't eligible for FEMA aid if they live outside a federally declared disaster zone. If the president hasn't issued a major disaster declaration, FEMA can't help even if your house is destroyed. And here's the most dangerous part. According to FEMA, only about 15% of Americans have flood insurance. That means 85% are totally exposed, many of them living in high-risk zones, and they don't even know it. Why? Because their mortgage didn't require it. They were told they probably don't need it, or they just assumed their regular insurance would handle it. Assumed. A word that's cost people everything. Section 6. The danger zones are expanding. For decades, flood insurance was treated like a coastal issue, something only Florida, Louisiana, or Gulf Coast residents needed to worry about. But not anymore. In the last 5 years, devastating floods have hit places that never expected them. Vermont, a landlocked state, saw record-breaking floods that swallowed bridges and businesses. Pennsylvania and New York neighborhoods were drowned after just a few hours of extreme rainfall. In Illinois, suburbs not even near major rivers faced flash floods that trapped families inside their homes. And it's not just hurricanes anymore. Atmospheric rivers, rapid snowmelt, stalled storm systems, they're all pushing water into places flood maps say are low risk. But FEMA's maps, many are over a decade old. And climate change is moving faster than the lines on paper. That means millions of homes that look safe on paper are sitting ducks in reality. Insurance companies know this. That's why they're raising premiums, tightening restrictions, and quietly dropping coverage in flood-prone zip codes. And homeowners are being left to fend for themselves without warning. You may not be in a danger zone today, but that doesn't mean you're safe tomorrow. What you can do now: protect yourself before the next storm. The system may be confusing, but you don't have to be caught off guard. Here's what every homeowner should do right now to protect themselves before the next storm hits. Step 1. Check your policy. Pull out your homeowner's insurance documents. Search for the words flood, storm surge, and name storm deductible. If they're not there or if they're vague, it's time to call your provider. Ask them, do I have flood insurance? Is hurricane damage covered fully? Wind and water. Is there a separate deductible if a storm is named? Step 2. Know your risk. Even if you're not on a coastline, you could be in a flood zone. Go to the FEMA Flood Map Service Center sc.fema.gov, enter your address. It will show you if your home is in a special flood hazard area or near a high-risk zone. Remember, 1 in 4 flood claims come from outside high-risk areas. Just because your area doesn't look risky doesn't mean you're safe. Step 3. Get flood insurance before it's too late. You can buy flood coverage through FEMA, SNFIP, or private insurers. Prices vary based on your elevation and location, but most policies start under $500 per year, far less than even a minor repair bill. And don't wait. FEMA flood policies have a 30-day waiting period. That means you can't just buy coverage when a storm is forecast. It'll be too late. Step 4. Inventory your home. Take photos or videos of your rooms, valuables, and important documents. Upload them to the cloud. If you ever need to file a claim, that record could be the difference between getting help and being denied. Storms are unpredictable. Insurance shouldn't be. Section 8. Outro. What if this is just the beginning? Every year, the storms grow stronger, flood maps grow more outdated, and the number of Americans left uncovered grows larger. You pay your premiums. You follow the rules. You do everything right. But all it takes is one storm, one oversight in your policy, one fine print clause you never noticed, and your life can change in a matter of hours. The wind howls, the water rises, and when it's all over, you expect help. But the adjuster shrugs. The policy doesn't apply, and you're left holding the bill for tens of thousands of dollars. It's not just a risk, it's a trap, and most Americans are walking straight into it. But you don't have to. You now know what most people only learn when it's too late. Now's your chance to act before disaster strikes. Because when the next hurricane forms, when the next flash flood rushes down your street, there won't be time to read the fine print. And if the forecasts are right, this hurricane season could be one of the worst we've ever seen. So ask yourself, am I truly protected? Or just hoping I am? Don't forget to share this with someone who owns a home. It could save them from financial ruin. Like, subscribe, and stay alert. We break down the fine print before it breaks you.